Hey everybody, welcome to an unfiltered Matt Report. Got a lot of questions about what the unfiltered meant yesterday over the Twitters. It meant that Kiko and I were going to show up naked and just start talking about all things Drupal. No, I'm just kidding. This is something that's unscripted. I don't have my lovely producer Lisa here to keep me in check and to send me time updates and topic updates. But I'm here with Kiko Doran, co-founder and starter of PrestigeConf. We're going to talk about what it's like to launch your first conference, be it a WordPress conference, a business conference, a design conference, whatever it is. We're going to sort of get the skinny on what that's like. Because, hey, I might be thinking about taking Matt Report on the road, right? Maybe doing a Matt Report conference. Don't know what that's going to look like, but we're going to talk about that today. Totally unscripted and just sort of off-the-cuff conversation. MattReport.com/subscribe. Join the mailing list if you're interested in all things WordPress entrepreneurship. But without further ado, Kiko, who are you and what do you do?
Hey, Matt. I'm just a regular old guy. I've been running a WordPress agency since 2007. Well, I've been doing business consulting really since 2007 and started to get into WordPress in 2009. And I found WordCamps and really loved it. I've seen you at a ton of WordCamps. I've been all over the country, traveling to them, speaking at them, and it really just, kind of got in my blood, and I really enjoyed it. And I organized 2 WordCamps in Minneapolis, and now I just moved to New Jersey and want to keep organizing conferences. So we started the Prestige Conference to sort of service that itch, I guess.
What was the itch? I mean, as somebody who's a veteran in the WordCamp organizing space, what was it that you saw that, I think we can maybe do something a little bit different and maybe attract a different audience or just have a different conversation? What was that seed that started that?
The thing for us that really made us want to do something different was that we really wanted to talk about business. And we agree that, business tracks at WordCamps are really awesome. We did one. My second one I organized, we did a business track at the first one, but we did a full breakout day business track on the second one, and it was good. But the problem was that you only get volunteer speakers, and that was really the kind of the heartburn for us, is that there were people that we wanted to speak, and WordCamps are really set up to be a local meetup, kind of a more formal local meetup, and we really wanted to bring in the best of the best speakers, and doing that through a volunteer process we didn't think really served it well.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that I really enjoyed, obviously, is being able to be sponsored as a speaker from your organization, to get out there. It was just a tremendous. I don't even know how to put it, but it was just great to sort of to feel a little bit more loved. So thank you for that.
And organizing the WordCamps, there were just a couple things that your hands are kind of tied on, and that being one of them. They really don't want you to bring speakers in from all over the place and not have a bunch of locals. So in doing that, it just was hard, especially with a first-time conference. It's hard to attract the right kind of speakers if you're asking them, hey, can you come speak at my event? And then, by the way, it's going to cost you $1,500 to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, hey, it's one of those things that in any sort of launch, be it a product, be it a conference, a new business, it's just like that extra sort of overhead that you're accounting for to make a splash, right? So if, let's say, you're launching a product, you might do like our friends at Flagship, they did a laptop giveaway, a MacBook Air giveaway. I mean, that kind of thing creates a splash, brings people in. And it just draws more attention than sort of I'll just launch this and hope that people see it and hope that next year people will come and join it. One of the things that I talk about a lot and love WordCamps, the value of it is untouched. Like you can't even come close to that, and I know you know that. But that was one of the difficult things when I volunteered to organize WordCamp Providence, and I was the guy that had to go out and get the donations and get the sponsorships. So the first thing I did was like, well, let's just go right to Dunkin' Donuts and get $10,000 so we can just pay for half of this thing in one shot. And then there's those regulations from the foundation, which I totally get. But if I'm thinking about starting a conference, I don't even know where to begin. Like I'm thinking like, well, maybe if I try to get 100 people there, is that too ambitious? But I don't even know where to begin with cost. How did you start it? Did you just take a look at how you organized the WordCamp and said, well, we'll just kind of replicate this model and just do it in the private sector? What was the first thing that you said, this is what we have to tackle as far as cost?
Yeah, it's hard to say with starting my own conference because I did use a lot of the connections that I got from organizing a WordCamp. We did the first Prestige conference in Minneapolis, and Prestige conference brings a whole different set of issues because we're trying to do this quarterly is our 2016 goal, to do it quarterly, but always in a different location. So if I go back to my original WordCamp organizing, the number one thing that the foundation will tell you, Andrea tells you this, before you do anything else, lock a location. Without a location, everything else doesn't matter because it's hard to talk to speakers because you don't have a date. It's hard to talk to sponsors because you don't have a location. It's hard to really do anything at that point. You can't market it. You can't do anything without a location. So
right. It's like me planning my wedding. Like we have to pick the location before we can even start to talk to caterers and do the invites and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Planning a conference like doing this wedding and on top of your WordCamps, I think you'll be perfectly equipped to your own conference. It's really it is planning a wedding. It's not much different.
That's great. So how did you secure that location? What was that like? Did you go to so things that spin around in my head is maybe I have to talk to an event planner. Maybe I just call up hotels? Did you know exactly where you wanted to go and target that right from scratch, or right from the start, or did you have a couple that you were kind of picking and choosing from?
Well, I think to pick a location, it's really important to go to some conferences, go to WordCamps, go to whatever it is, whatever your target audience, where they're hanging out and going to conferences, go to those conferences. It'll teach you the expectations of what, attendees are going to want to see. Mm-hmm. I sort of look at conference organizing, I look at it as that I'm servicing 3 clients, and I think that's where a lot of people miss the mark. I don't claim to be an expert at this. We kind of make it up as we go along, but it's sort of life for me.
Yep.
But I see it as 3 clients, and other people disagree with me on this, but I think you have to service the attendees, you have to service the speakers, and you have to service the sponsors. Mm-hmm. And I think if you miss any of those, it's like a wheel with 3 spokes. And if you're missing one, your wheel's really not going to spin right. So I think it's really important to keep in mind that you have to service all 3 of those. So I'm picking a location. We wanted to get a location that speakers were going to be proud to be videotaped in, that conference attendees were going to be comfortable in, and that sponsors, we were going to be able to display their stuff and talk about them in an environment that they would be proud to be talked about in. I think we picked a great spot for that.
Yeah, I mean, the venue, hands down, was one of the best that I've been at for any kind of conference and an organized event. And I totally agree with you that all three pieces have to be well thought out and well delivered, because the Matt Report sponsorship stuff, that's what I'm always looking for. Is when I do events for Matt Report and I want sponsorship, I'm always thinking about, well, what can I do more than just read your ad, right? Or just put a link into your blog post. Like, what else can I do? And when I do the startup challenge, which is the only thing that I do that's sponsored right now, I'm always looking for how I can bring in more value. And it's just, it's spot on for you to recognize that and think about that. Because it is so important, and as a speaker, being at that venue and having, it was an auditorium, but it was an intimate auditorium. It was, people wrapped around you. The equipment was great. So everything was just top notch. So it's spot on for you guys.
And all that stuff plays, AV, all that stuff.
It was
about all that stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. I must say, if anybody's watching, people are watching this, of course, what are we talking about? This is the #1 WordPress show in the universe. If you have questions, drop them in the Q&A section of Google Hangout. We'll be sure to answer those. So you picked your venue. You thought about everybody involved, the sponsors, and the attendees and the speakers. If I'm thinking of 100-person conference, do I start in the thousands, tens of thousands? Is there anything that surprised you in terms of cost with running something like this that other folks should be aware of?
The biggest surprise for us was expensive travel.
Okay.
That is the piece. I had what I budgeted for it. It ended up being 200% of that. So
Wow.
what I expected for speaker travel wasn't as high as I thought. What I expected for ticket sales, or what I expected for travel was higher than I thought. What I expected for ticket sales was much lower than I thought. The ticket sales piece was, it was sort of fortuitous though, because everybody that I talked to at the after party, and we had that private Friday night event that you moderated, and everybody I talked to that was part of these parts said that the real value in this was that we had so many like thought leaders from the WordPress industry. We had like, you know, people from web dev, people from Modern Tribe, people from WordPress, people from 10up, and having all these people together, it like gave you the opportunity to actually be able to talk to them and have meaningful conversations. And even the VP of sales for WP Engine, Matt Schatz, he said to me, he said, I never get to talk to all these thought leaders at the same time. So that part of it was really cool, and it's really sort of influenced where we're going now. We're going to keep these events to maximum 150 people. And when you look at sponsors and speakers and my organizing team, we really only have 100 tickets to sell. So we think that that's a good number, and we think it keeps it where we can keep the quality high, and we really want to have great attendees that really bring value to the conversations. So it depends on, first, the location. So the location we had there, it was so reasonable. We paid for that room. I think we paid like $860 or something for the day. And to find a room for that price with that caliber, I mean,
did you look at anything else and that they were just like $5,000 and you're like, this is not worth $5,000?
I didn't look at anything else because I've already looked at every venue in Minneapolis for trying to organize WordCamps.
Yeah.
I've been to them all, and I've had stuff at other places, and I've been to other conferences at other venues. So I know that that's like the best venue in town. The room is awesome, super comfortable. The other thing we had to consider was a really good, you know, bandwidth. We had to have a good pipeline to be able to do the live stream, and that's something that, you know, you really have to go test it. You can ask them, hey, do you have a good enough bandwidth to do this? But if you haven't tested it, I wouldn't feel comfortable with selling tickets or something like that.
Yeah. How did the live stream stuff go? Was that something that you knew right off the bat you wanted to offer, or did that sort of crop up, you know, in the middle of the process and say, you know what, let's sell tickets to this because this will sort of augment the revenue?
No, it was a loser for us in the grand scheme of things. It costs a lot of money to put that on, but for us, that's a marathon. That wasn't a sprint. That's something we're going to continue to do, and we're selling access to the videos after the fact. And I would love to be able to give the videos away for free, but part of what we sell to the speakers too is that this isn't an environment where everybody's going to get this and the trolls are going to come out. You know, we really want you to be able to talk about things in a very honest, sincere way, and we want to have value to that content. And I've even talked to some of the speakers after the fact and asked them, what do you think if I were just to release these? And I had a speaker tell me that I would rather you sell them because it keeps them behind a paywall. It keeps it just keeps the quality of viewership higher too.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's a smart move, and I don't think it everything needs to be publicly available, and that's the benefit of going, right? That's the velvet rope that people have to cross in order to get the content that you guys are offering up at Prestige, and totally works for me, and I totally get it. Interesting about the live stream being sort of a loss leader. I looked at the equipment that dude had, and it was, it was like CNN rolled up there, and they were setting up sans the satellite truck. What do you think you're going to continue that route and just keep it going even at the next conference?
Without a doubt, yeah. That's really kind of a big push for us, and we did think about it from the beginning because we had to have a room that had the bandwidth to be able to do that.
Right.
So the next one, I'm bringing the same guy. I have a team of like 6 people that I can pull off this event anywhere in the country with a little bit of local help. So that's another thing, is trying to do this in a geographically separated situation. It's where we created a new level of sponsorship, and we're calling it the local host sponsor. And that's somebody that is kind of like boots on the ground to help us in the area. So the next one is going to be in Las Vegas, and we had a ton of help from John Hawkins, Vegas Geek from 9 Seeds, and he'll be doing our keynote in Vegas, but he also helped us line up the venue. He's, kind of advising us on good hotel situations and after party stuff. So we can do all the organizing from a distance, but it's really good to have somebody that can help you with that piece. So
yeah,
I would recommend organizing a conference locally. Don't do your first conference across the country, but if you go that way, it's important to have some local help or fly out and do a pre-event.
Yeah, so let's just talk about the second conference coming up. That is scheduled for March?
February 27th and 28th.
27th and 28th, February 2015, scheduled in Las Vegas for PrestigeConf 2. I'm interested to know, from the founder, entrepreneur perspective, you just launched this one, you just finished it, and here we are 5 months later, we're already doing number 2. Any fears going into this one, or are you so confident now that you're going to knock it out of the park?
No, there's always fear. Like, we're going to launch the site tomorrow and start selling tickets tomorrow. So there's always a little fear, because when you sell the first ticket, you're committed to it. So, if you only sell one ticket, it's a huge loser for you. So from that perspective, there's always a little fear. But I also think that if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have that little sphincter flex every once in a while, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's fear in everything. When you start your business, when you quit your job, whatever it is, there's always a little bit of fear. So
yeah, business is always a clusterfuck. I don't care what anybody says. It's never smooth sailing.
And you're counting on other people to see value in something, and that build it and they will come mentality really doesn't work.
Right.
I had a lot of people. For WordCamp, we sold 360 tickets or something this year. So I assumed that we'll probably sell 300 tickets for a Prestige conference, and that isn't the case. And I had people say to me, $99 for a conference, that's pretty steep. And I just, I found myself trying to argue with them, $99, we're going to give you a almost $20 T-shirt, if you're wearing the sweatshirt, it's like those things cost $35. So $20 for a T-shirt, $35 for a sweatshirt, lunch, dinner. We got alcohol the night before. You had food and drink. It costs more than $100 a person to put this event on. I don't get it. And I just realized you're not in our target audience. If you don't think that you can come here from these types of speakers and take $100 of value and come back and have $100 return in your business, then you're not in the target audience. And I had to convince myself of that, because it's a little disheartening for people to tell you that your price is too high.
Yeah, I know. And that's the other thing about being the entrepreneur, being somebody who's trying to put out your product is you're going to have that. We recently launched Conductor Plugin, and now we're starting, as we're getting more traction, we're starting to get those questions coming. I don't really see it the way you guys see it, or it's not as easy to use as you guys make it out to be. And we're answering those questions, and then it's just, with product, I guess it might be a little bit easier, because you can just say, hey, watch this video and you'll see the difference. Oh, I get it now. But I totally understand what you're seeing from the conference level, because you can't really prove it to them until they get the word of mouth, or until they watch those videos, which, by the way, were top notch. And they were done in 2 days.
They were one day.
Which was awesome.
24 hours we had them up, and that's part of my thing. That's I'm a media guy. I was a musician. I went to music school. That's what I love. Audio. I love video, but I love media at a high level. And I think that organizing a WordCamp, when it's all said and done, all you have are the memories, the T-shirt, and the video. And if the video is just a camera stuck in the back of the room with a microphone on the camera on the back of the room, and we've all been on, WordPress TV and watching videos, and you got to turn the volume all the way up, and you still can barely hear it.
Yeah.
Somebody drops their pencil, 3 desks in front, and you can't hear anything. But so for us, we really wanted to do top-notch content. The videos, I think, are great, and the way that you see the videos online, that's the same way they saw them in the live stream. There was live editing happening. The guy's like a Monday Night Football producer. He's switching between cameras. He's switching to slides. He's doing picture-in-picture with video over slides. He's doing that all live, so it's pretty awesome.
So with that said, we're going to grab our first question from the audience, and if you are watching, go ahead and drop in your questions in the Google, or you can either tweet to me at Matt Report and send me a question, and I'll try to get that answered before we end. And if you're watching live, I believe there's a little yellow bar down the bottom that says join the conversation. Click that, it'll open up the Q&A app. You can drop in your questions, I believe. First question comes from Jason Resnick, and it's a perfect one that sort of aligns with what we were just talking about. Prestige is putting out a higher level quality conference. You're flying in great speakers. You're putting tons and tons of money behind video producing and editing because you understand the value of it. So with conferences, and this comes from Jason, with conferences like Pressnomics, Prestige, and now Loop in 2015, do you see more conferences popping up that may alter the rules or way WordCamps are managed? And then I'm interested to know, what do you think about upcoming competition? So two questions. Do you think all of the conferences like you're launching is going to sort of alter the way WordCamps are run? And what do you think about up and coming competition?
I was really charged to look at the San Francisco. They have the summit coming up on Monday. I'm not going to be part of it. I'll be in town, but I don't know. You had to get a ticket for it somehow, and I didn't get a ticket for it. But I looked at the topics, and I think there was maybe 19 topics when I looked, and I would guess that about 9 or 10 of them were WordCamp related, which was really surprising to me, with all the things around the San Francisco WordCamp especially, and all the things around WordPress and just core contribution. I was really surprised to see almost half of the topics were WordCamp related, and I think that's really good. Some of the topics I saw were paying for speakers to travel. So I think that if we can do things a little differently and it can motivate some change, I'm not saying that we're the reason why they're having that conversation, but if in any way we can motivate some change, that's great. I don't necessarily think WordCamps have to change, though. I think WordCamps are perfect for what they are. They have a stated mission, and that's to be a local conference, and majority local conference. I don't necessarily love that because I think meetups already do that. But for when I organize WordCamps and I do the opening remarks, I always ask how many people is this your first WordCamp, and without any question, it's always about 80% of the people had never been to these before, even when you're looking at back-to-back repeats. So I think WordCamps have a place. I don't necessarily think they need to change. If they do change, I think that's great, but I don't think they have to. I don't think there's much that has to change with them. They really have that fine-tuned. The sponsorship is easy at this point. Now there's a ton of sponsors that are there for you. You really don't need to raise $1 to organize a WordCamp.
Yeah, I think it's important that those, and preaching to the choir, but and not that the foundation would ever listen to me anyway, but I don't think that should change. It would be a detriment if WordCamps really pivoted and did something else, because the low barrier to entry, as much as the seasoned WordCamper like you and I and some of us listening are, and we sort of say, oh man, it's the same old thing, I'm seeing the same old people. Like you said, it is 80% of the people there that are brand new, and they don't know this stuff. They've never met us, they've never heard us talk. They've never heard other people talk and all that fun stuff. So I don't think it should change because it is accessible, it is affordable, which is just amazing. Even like you said before about the $100 and how that's an issue. WordCamps can get as cheap as I think $20. Providence was $40, I think. This is ridiculously low prices, even $100. I mean, if you look at Blog World, I think you can walk through the aisle for $800. I think that's the going rate. So it's ridiculous. So I don't think WordCamp should change. And I think what you'll start to hear in the media, especially as we talk to folks like you and see all these new conferences come up, I think inevitably you're going to get the blog post in the Twitter chatter that says, this is great, no more boring WordCamps. Take heed, people. Let's not get rid of WordCamps. Let's not change that. They are super important to the foundation of the community. No pun intended. What do you think about the competition coming up?
I don't know. I never really consider competition in the traditional sense when it comes to a conference, because we're still doing them for local communities. We did the Minneapolis event, and as you talk to people, I'm sure you realize almost everybody there was from Minneapolis, and now we're going to do Vegas. And we expect that people are going to be from Vegas at this event. I have had a couple of people say they're going to fly in. Vegas is, a little bit of a different piece, but the live stream, international, really. Anybody can buy access to the video on the event, and you can also watch the videos after the fact. So we're not looking to dominate anything. I think that we have a particular niche. We're really focused on building businesses, and like LoopConf, I think that's awesome. I want those guys to succeed. Anything I could do to help them succeed, I want to go to the event. I want to be part of it. They're doing some things that I agree with, some things I don't agree with, but that's the beauty of it. We can all, it's like a playground. It's a sandbox. We can do whatever we want to do and see what works and what doesn't work. And every time we do one of these, we learn. And I think that we can keep the value so high that it can live on forever, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's take another question. This one comes from Lisa. She just posted another one, so it just...
The Lisa?
The Lisa. Full disclosure, it is my executive producer. Gave her the day off today because she's been working so hard. This is a great question. This is one that's sort of on my mind. If you're thinking about launching a conference, like what I'm thinking of doing, what percentage of sponsorship money did you get before starting to sell tickets? Or how much buy-in did you get before you started the idea? Sort of giving your seed round, if you will.
I believe let me look at my spreadsheet because it'll tell me for sure, but I believe that we had 2 sponsors when we started it. And the first one, I remember Josh and I talking the day before we launched tickets and considering not doing it because that feeling I talked about before, like we're really on the line here and we have to make this thing happen. So it's scary. It's scary to get that to, it's a chicken or egg theory, I guess, because on some level, if you don't have the connections with sponsors to talk to them about something that's never happened before and sell them on it, then you have to launch it and then try to sell sponsorship. That'd be a little too scary for me to do that with no sponsorship. I think that if you don't know a couple people that would be willing to sponsor, you're probably not ready to put on a conference yet. You probably need to go to some conferences, meet some people, and figure that out. But I think it's critical. You have to have some of it. You have to get to that point. It's just like quitting your job. Like how much freelance work do you need in the pipe before you quit your job?
Right.
It's different for everybody, but it also depends on what kind of budget event you're trying to put on. So, it's hard to say, but I would say get as much sponsorship as early as you possibly can.
And did you validate that? How did you validate that? Did you send, and you don't have to give specifics or specific names, but in dollars, but did you shoot off an email to one of your sponsors that you wanted and said, here's the idea, here's what we're doing, I'm looking for X amount of dollars, would you buy in at this price? I mean, did you validate it as simplistically as that?
I did, yeah. It was more conversations, like, some of it was via Twitter, some of it you can go find, and, it was publicly done and via Twitter, some of it was done via text message, it was all done differently. A lot of it was done going to WordCamps and talking to sponsors at WordCamps, and talking to, people that speak at WordCamps. And, you just get to know those people from going to enough of these. And I think that it's important to try to line up as much of that as you can.
Nice. Another question from Lisa. Did you find that a certain percentage, or did you find any attendees at PrestigeConf 1 did not have WordPress as their central business?
Well, that's something that is interesting. PrestigeConf really isn't set up as a WordPress conference, which it is, but it isn't. All the topics that were covered there, and you can speak to this too, all the topics that were covered there, if you owned a barbershop in today's world, they all apply. None of it was WordPress specific. We got into some WordPress products and, whether products are the gold rush that people think they are, and we covered some of those things, but all the business stuff that we talked about really applies regardless of what your industry is. It just so happens that the conferences I go to are all WordPress conferences, and the business people that I meet all run WordPress businesses, so those are the people that in my network that I can ask to talk. We have a woman speaking in Las Vegas who was part of the downtown revitalization effort, and she works for Tony Hsieh from Zappos. He's kind of the head of that whole thing. So we have a woman speaking from there too, and she works with Nine Seeds a lot, and she's kind of on the other side of it. She's a client that's looking for solutions. So we want to shake that up a little bit, and in time you'll see that it won't be as WordPress speaker focused, but there'll always be an aspect to that, and that's the people I know, and that's the people that are probably buying tickets to this right now. But we did have like some pure marketers there. We had a little bit of a mix, but I would say it was still probably 75% WordPress. You know.
Are you going to try to get Tony Hsieh to sponsor a room?
Well,
for the whole event?
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Awesome. As we wind down, what do you think was the biggest lesson you took away from launching this PrestigeConf #1?
The biggest lesson, huh? Budget more for travel and lodging. That was probably the biggest. I think that, the biggest thing I learned is that if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, it's no different than building a plugin. Everybody talks about like scratching your own itch. I think it's the same thing. This piece, it sort of came out of the idea that when I went to music school, I always tried to study with the best musicians because they could help me get to where I wanted to be faster. It was like a shortcut. They could help me teach things that would take me, 2 years in my basement to learn. They could help me draw those lines a little quicker. And so Prestige Conference sort of is that. It's like, to me, it's like a private lesson to me in how to run my own business. And I know it's going to apply to a lot of other people. So that's how I make the decisions. Josh and I talk about this stuff all the time, like who should we have speak? And that's the beauty, is we get to invite them. So I guess the biggest lessons learned is that if you have a passionate idea, really go for it and be open to change, because things will change, and be open to learning from the feedback that you get from the attendees and the speakers and sponsors too. I mean, I got feedback from all three, and taking that stuff and applying it to make the next one even better.
Do you think that, and that's a great answer, by the way, what do you think the best number is? And I think you mentioned it earlier, but is the magical number 100 attendees? Does that make for a good experience for attendees and for sponsors, or could one start a little bit smaller?
You could start smaller. So another thing that is unique to Prestige Conference versus other conferences is the single track. And I think that does something that is different. If you have 4 tracks, you bring together everybody for an after party, and you and I are talking, and I talk about this great session that I saw, and you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't see that. So it takes away that synergy to be able to talk about that and build upon those conversations. So I think if you're doing a single track event, it's a little bit different. You want to have less people. But if you're doing like a 4-track event, I think you need more people, because just to be able to have people be able to group up and have conversations about things, I think you need more people. Plus, you just need more people in the room too. You don't want 4 tracks and only have 100 people, and average 25 people in each room. So it kind of depends. But we really like the single track vibe, because it really, when you go to the after party, everybody saw what you saw, and I think you can really create some good synergy from that. Yeah,
and I agree with that, and I agree. That was the first experience of a single WordPress track was was Pressnomics, and that was great, because you're all in the same room, and then you all leave the room and you can talk about it, go back in, see the next session. So that's definitely a great model. One last question, something about the travel. When you went to budget that, how did you plan it out? Did you guess your budget, and just by thinking about, okay, this person's going to come from here, it's going to cost $500, and then what really made that travel go double from what you originally budgeted?
It's like weird things. I don't want to give people's names, but
probably this guy.
We had one speaker that was traveling from Sacramento to the event, and then was going on vacation the week after. So he was sort of preempting his vacation to be part of this. And so he was flying from Sacramento to Minneapolis, and then Minneapolis, I believe, to Hartford. And in doing that, there just weren't a lot of flight options. It was one-way tickets, basically. And when it came down to it, it was like, and he was willing to fly Southwest and have a 3-hour layover in Kentucky or something, but it, like when I looked at it, it was like, I think it was like $230 to fly Southwest or $540 to fly from Minneapolis to Hartford. So $540 for a one-way ticket was a lot more than we had budgeted.
Mm.
But like I said, we have 3 clients, and the speakers, I want to take care of them. You know, you're doing me a favor by coming to speak at this thing, and I appreciate it, and I'm not going to have you sit in an airport for 3 hours to save a couple $100. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So those things, we brought in a keynote speaker that was like kind of late in the game, so the room at that point was really expensive too. So those kinds of things just add up over time. So the further you can lock those things out, the better off you're going to be. But it's hard.
That's a great. And one other thing I wanted to bring up. The hotel, did you negotiate? Did they have group rates? Did they not even listen to you? You have to be like, Walmart in order for them to negotiate. What was that like for the hotel?
They didn't really.
Hotel.
They didn't negotiate with us much. I liked it a lot. The biggest thing for us with that was location. That we wanted people to be able to walk out the door and be right at the venue. We didn't want to have to deal with people Ubering around or whatever. And pretty much all the speakers were from out of town. There were only, I think, two local speakers. So it was important that we had everybody downtown. We also offered a hotel room to the local speakers. Some took it, some didn't. I don't know. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to slight people because they were local. I wanted to offer that opportunity to them as well. And Travis Tots from WordPress, he's kind of our creative director, and he helps us with everything. He designed the T-shirts, he designed the logo, he designed the sweatshirts, everything. He really, anything creative, signage, everything. He did all that stuff, and he spoke at the Friday night piece. And he lives in an Airstream, so we offered him a hotel room for the weekend. It's like, if you can get a weekend, if your hotel room's bigger than where you live, it can be nice.
Yeah, it's like a vacation unto itself.
Yeah.
All right, final question. What do we have to look forward to for round 2 of PrestigeConf? Anything new, anything that you can talk about here today that's going to be new and exciting to the track?
We have like an all-star list of speakers. It's really pretty phenomenal, the people that are coming to speak. You can check it out at prestigeconf.com/next, N-E-X-T, and we have a list of the speakers, the confirmed speakers there. We have a couple that are tentative, but Friday night is going to be hosted by Jake Goldman. He's going to kind of MC the night, similar to what you did on Friday night, actually.
Oh man, I would love to be there.
Yeah, but we want to have tough conversations. We want to have honest conversations, and we think Jake is a great guy to ask the questions that some people maybe are afraid to ask. And if somebody's not answering the question, he'll ask you again. We think he's a perfect person for that. So Friday night he's going to be doing a one-on-one with Chris Lemma, talking about going from the enterprise to WordPress and back again, kind of. So he left the enterprise, he's coming to work in WordPress, and I think a big part of his goals are to bring WordPress back to the enterprise. Mm-hmm. So we want to talk about that. And John Ekman he's the CEO at 10Up, he's going to be speaking on Saturday about similar kind of topics. So we think it's a good opening for the weekend. So that'll be our opener on Friday night, and then we're going to break, and then we're going to do a panel that Jake is going to lead. And then Saturday, we have awesome speakers: John Hawkins, Pippin Williamson, Brad Williams, Carl Hancock, Brianna Norcross. Andrew Norcross is going to be part of the panel on Friday. We have a couple of people that we're still trying to, we think we have it locked in on Friday night, but we have a couple of people that we're just trying to work out the travel arrangements. And that's another big thing. Working out the travel is part of, getting these speakers locked in. But we have like killer lineup, and the piece that we did with Jake Goldman at Prestige One, I think to me that was what we want Prestige Conference to be. Yeah. You put on one of these conferences and you're trying to lock sponsors, you're trying to bring in speakers, you're trying to sell tickets. It's like doing a website. You have to set requirements months ahead of time and lock those requirements. Mm-hmm. That Saturday piece with Jake, we left that one piece open, and that was the piece we were going to work on. And Josh and I probably spent 10 hours with Jake on Skype going over what we wanted to talk about. It was mostly a conversation between Jake and I, and Josh just kind of listened in, so that way when we did the conversation live, it would feel like a first-time conversation and feel like that impromptu kind of talk. But Jake and I talked about a lot of the concepts, and then we kind of figured out like these are the things we think will be important to talk about. So that piece is something that we want to build on, and Josh is going to do that again. That's kind of going to become the anchor to the whole thing. That'll be our closing piece every time, because then it gives us the flexibility to run a little bit over. So he's going to do that with Carl Hancock from Gravity Forums this time. And we're going to do one other one like that. Because Jake is so intimately familiar with the process we went through, he's going to do that with Pippin Williamson. And I think that's going to be a great piece. So
yeah,
kind of things that I want to learn about Pippin from Pippin. So I think it'll be great to have Jake really probe those things and find out.
Yeah. Aside from my talk, Jake was the best at PrestigeConf. No,
that's what I tell everybody too. Other than that,
listening to Jake talk about the intricacies of the growth of 10up was worth its weight in gold to go there for anybody who's. Doesn't matter if you're running a WordPress shop or just an agency or any business. You can we really took away a lot, and I won't spoil it. If you want it, I guess you can go buy the video when it's available.
It is available now. Now. But he did talk about some things that you won't hear him talk about other places. Mm-hmm. He compared his growth to his EBITDA. Like, where's the money coming? When's the money coming in, and where are these people? And it was really interesting to see that chart. That chart to me alone was worth the price of admission, just to understand that and have him really dissect that and explain it to everybody. I thought was really super valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Kiko, it's been an amazing time. Thanks for letting me chat with you about this openly and publicly about sort of starting up a conference. So if you are starting up a conference, go ahead and tweet to either one of us. Even tweet to PrestigeConf. I'm sure the team over there are happy to answer any questions that you might have. Kiko, where can folks find you on the web?
Twitter, I guess, Kiko Doran. And I have a small agency, but our website is so out of date. It's In-Group Consulting. Someday I'll update that and get some current portfolio stuff on there.
But painter's house is never painted.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm Matt Medeiros. You can find me at MattReport, mattreport.com/subscribe. If you're looking for a new tool for your development process, go ahead and check out conductorplugin.com. It's a content-first layout and display builder. Check it out, conductorplugin.com. Thanks, everybody.